and running on a Friday. It's Derby weekend down at Churchill Downs in Louisville. It is rainy and wet. Slop down there as JVT was very interested in the Oaks just unfolding. That is Jonathan Von Tobel. I am Tim Murray. The Kentucky Derby tomorrow down there in Louisville, and we will get more thoughts on the Derby coming up in 15 minutes. Chris Felica will jump on the program to give us his thoughts. You were all in on the Oaks just a moment ago.
That's right. I was really wondering if Torpedo Anna would pull this off. It's been a horse that I've circled here for quite a while, watched for quite some time, and sure enough, a dominant showing to win the 150th Kentucky Oaks. So congratulations to Torpedo Anna, something we all saw coming.
4-1? Yeah, I told everyone in here, I was like, this is a lock. No one believed me. Ortega, our producer, is trying to, say all this horse mumbo jumbo. I think, what did this horse finish? So dead last? I mean, come on, Ortega. You got to listen to the guys who know what we're talking about. Speaking of which, how are you going to bet tomorrow? How do you normally bet the Derby?
Oh, this is easy. I don't. Or what I'll do is just pick the name that I like.
Do you like any of the names?
Not necessarily. I'm not really big on all of them. Like, something really needs to kind of...
Mugato would have been great.
Sure.
Zoolander feel, but not in the field.
Yeah, like there's nothing really that kind of sticks out to me that really kind of you gravitate toward, right? I mean, there's no, like the one year that I bet it and it won, Medina Spirit is my mother-in-law's maiden name, and like right before it started, I was like, yeah, why not? Like, let's just try that out because I've had like 6 or 7 drinks and I need something to root for at this point right now. Track Phantom is the one that really stuck out to me. Good odds, 20-1, very good name, right? That's the best name I think of the bunch, but that's about it. I mean, West Saratoga, Domestic Product, Grandmo the First. It's actually, I would argue, the worst field of Kentucky Derby participants when it comes to names.
Have you broken it down?
Oh, I mean, I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah?
Nothing like 2012, but like, this is pretty poor.
Should I go with Honor Marie? My mom's middle name is Marie.
That got me a winner.
All right. Maybe that's... I think Bill 80 sent me a text today. Did he send the same text to you?
No.
Asking if you have a Kentucky Derby horse?
No, I did not get that text.
I got a text. I was like, Honor Marie. I've actually heard a couple people. I think Drew Dinsick today, if I believe correctly, from when he was on with Gil. Live from the track. That was a sharp interview earlier today.
It was.
On the slop there with his hat on. Drew looking sharp.
I will say, though, if you want real, actual analysis, First off, Chris Felica is going to be with us later in the show, but also Mike Somich is doing a great job up on the website, putting everything up there. He's got a really good post up, Kentucky Derby post-draw winners and losers, if you haven't gotten to the analysis on that. And, of course, just more of it from not only him, but Dave Tooley and Adam Burke as well. So make sure you check out VSiN.com.
Yeah, he said yesterday, Mike Somich, when he was on with us, he has a love-hate relationship with the 2 favorites. He does not like Sierra Leone, the 2-horse, but he does like fierceness. So I think he said he's going to have fierceness on top of a lot of, exactas and boxes and whatnot. But he likes the 17, the 7, and the 8 were some of the horses that he did like earlier this week when he joined the program. And if you missed Mike Somich, well, of course, you can catch him tomorrow on The Handle from noon to 3 Eastern, he and Matt Brown. Well, as JVT mentioned, Chris Felica will join the program here just a little bit, so we'll get his thoughts on the Kentucky Derby later on this hour. Our good friend, OnlyPlayers.com, Doug Kazarian, former ESPN betting analyst, who will join the program. We'll get his thoughts on the 2 NBA games tonight. We'll have our best bets later on this hour as well. Your Clippers, JVT, how are we feeling? Level of confidence, level of doubt? Obviously, your head coach is going to be poached. You were very upset on social media today with all of the rumors speculating that Ty Lue is going to fly the coop and leave the Clippers.
Well, that's the thing. There's actually no rumors that he was going to fly the coop. It was just like, here are the Lakers' top candidates, and like number 2 is Ty Lue. It's like, well, he's still employed and he's got a year left on his contract. Oh, and by the way, the report out today they're going to work an extension out with him. So like it happened last year with the Phoenix Suns. Happened again this year. It's dumb. By the way, for an overrated head coach, he is sure desired almost every single year. So that's neither here nor there. Look, I don't. In terms of confidence for the Los Angeles Clippers at this point, point right now, if they're going to show up the way they did in this last game, hard to have any confidence at this point right now in LA, outside of hoping that they're going to have a pretty good shooting night. But one of the consistents throughout this series has been the inability to shoot within 4 feet of the basket, Tim. The Dallas Mavericks have done a brilliant job keeping this team outside of the restricted area, and that's been a really big problem for them up to this point in this series. Right now, shooting within 4 feet of the basket, dead last among playoff teams, 47.4%. You've got to be able to do better than that. You've got to be able to generate shots at a higher volume than that because, as you know, as a basketball player, if you can generate some dribble penetration, guess what you might be able to do too? You might be able to draw some attention, kick it out to shooters that you've got here. So it's going to be pretty fascinating to see if they try to push this envelope because they should have to. You have to be able to get to the rim. You've got to be able to generate better looks from beyond the arc. You've got to use players like Russell Westbrook better. But the market, as we have kind of seen here, right, all in on the Dallas Mavericks before the series started, and I think it was kind of waiting for just a single opportunity for any sign of life from the Mavericks for the most part to really kind of buy in, and you're seeing that here with this number now sitting at 8 for Dallas at home, which is a pretty big number. So, again, I think the Clippers can play better than what they did, but given the playoff history of a guy like James Harden and the fact that they didn't show up in the last game, can you bank on them to do it again here? They did it a couple of years ago, but Kawhi Leonard was on the floor. That's a pretty big difference.
Over at VSiN.com, by the way, we're running a special 14 months for only $199. You get 2 months for free, so sign up now over at VSiN.com. Part of that subscription, you get our betting splits updated every 5 minutes with DraftKings betting information, and 53% of the bets on the Dallas Mavericks are relatively split, which I would say is not that surprising given the decent size of the point spread here. Everybody, at least at DraftKings, on the over. 82% of the bets, 89% of the handle on the over right now. And then the Dallas Mavericks getting 79%, of the money line bets. Earlier in the evening, we will get the Cleveland Cavaliers against the Orlando Magic as the Cavaliers looking to try to wrap up that series against the Orlando Magic. The Magic right now a 4-point home favorite, where 56% of the bets, 64% of the handle at DraftKings currently on the home Orlando Magic. Another do with this what you will stat, which is, by the way, 0-2 the last 2 days.
What was yesterday?
Yesterday was the referee, the extender.
Scott Foster.
Scott Foster, who, what was it? It was like 19-2 in games where the team that was trailing was at 19-2, and obviously that did not happen last night as the Knicks were able to get a victory over the Philadelphia 76ers and wrap up that series. But Donovan Mitchell, hashtag let him know, 36 points per game in Game 6. First all-time 6.8 rebounds, 6.3 assists per game. This is according to StatMuse. 52, 58, 84% shooting, 2, 3, and then free throw percentage. So Donovan Mitchell has enjoyed Game 6. Who also enjoyed Game 4?
Paul George was
the
Game 5 big-time performer.
That did not happen.
No.
In Game 5. Orlando right now laying 4. Seen a little bit of movement towards the Magic to stave off elimination here, with the total dipping down to 200.5. This got under 200, though, I want to say yesterday, right? So maybe a little movement back towards the over here. But currently, your consensus number, 200.5 for the total. Orlando laying 4 in this spot.
Yep, Jarrett Allen is questionable, so that's a pretty big one, too, when you look at is he going to be available or not here for the Cleveland Cavaliers. From a couple of minutes ago, walked out of the locker room to the tunnel. Instead of going to the court to work out, went toward the team's weight room, so don't know what that means, if whether or not he's going to be available. But we kind of discussed this in the last game, which was, look, the two big lineup here for Cleveland just hasn't really been great, but none of their lineups have really been great. But with both of those guys on the floor, an offensive rating of 102.5, their most used lineup with both Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen on the floor, 101.7. It just hasn't really been great for this team offensively. And at the very least, Tim, while you still weren't efficient with your offense last time out, what you did do at the very least was have your best shooting performance of the series, because you did put some extra shooters out there against Orlando. But you shot about 35% 35% from three, 35.3% to be exact, and you kind of stumbled into that adjustment because Allen wasn't available. So if Allen's going to be available today, again, going to the weight room instead of going to the floor to work out doesn't seem like a positive. So if he's going to be out again, is Cleveland going to be able to spread the floor, shoot the ball better once more for a team that was shooting under 25% from three going into the last game? I think you kind of need it. So I'll be very interested to see if, again, you kind of sneak over a total here if Allen's not going to play and you as Cleveland are forced to play a few more shooters and with Evan Mobley as a lone big or just one big out there at one time. And I think that kind of benefits them. So I think they're almost like stumbling into a better adjustment if he's not going to be out there.
So we'll see if these two series wrap up tonight, if we will get a Game 7. So far, no Game 7s yet for this round of the NBA playoffs. We do have a Game 7 on the ice as the Toronto Maple Leafs last night, without Austin Matthews, get a win north of the border to beat the Boston Bruins. So a primetime game in Boston as the Bruins are trying to avoid becoming the first team in, I believe, any major sport to blow 3-1 leads in consecutive postseasons. As they were up 3-1 in this series, it is now even at 3 games apiece. We'll see if Austin Matthews is it a go for tomorrow. Still status up in the air for Toronto, who, by the way, have won both games without Austin Matthews in this series. On the ice tonight, JVT's beloved Nashville Predators.
Speaking of blowing a 3-1 series lead, huh? Let's do it.
Top of the hour, they staved off elimination, and they are back at home in Smashville. They're laying $1.18 against the Vancouver Canucks. The reason we say JVT's Nashville Predators, 89-1.
That's right.
To win the Stanley Cup.
Market
Here
doesn't believe.
in Las Vegas, the Golden Knights, they were up 2-0. Now down 3-2. Aiden Hill will start for the Knights. They are a home dog tonight. Very slight against the Dallas Stars. Best bets coming up bottom of the hour, but a Kentucky Derby preview with the Bear. Chris Felica next.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the sports betting network.
VSiN.com/subscribe, folks. If you sign up, use the promo code PRIME. We'll give you a great special for less than $200. You're going to get 14 months, not a full year. That's right, 14 months for $199. That's 2 months free. All you got to do is sign up, use the promo code PRIME, PRIME. Get access to everything you do up to the site. You get the live stream. You get all the betting analysis. You get the betting splits access and more. Check it out now. Again, VSiN.com/subscribe. Pro subscription for 14 months and less than $200 with the promo code PRIME.
That is Jonathan Von Tobel. I am Tim Murray. The Kentucky Derby, the 150th running, comes tomorrow afternoon in Louisville. And a man who knows a thing or two about the ponies, Chris Felica, joins us right now on our progressive guest line. Of course, you can catch him on Fox Sports on multiple various platforms, his podcasts, Bear Bets. Make sure to check that out as well. Bear, always appreciate you jumping on. The first thing that jumps to me was the weather today. Are we expecting this similar type of track come tomorrow, or should it be dried out for the Kentucky Derby?
Having been to a bunch of derbies, I've been to a lot of Fridays that have been like this, and it's been like this on Saturday morning. And by post time for the Derby, they have it in a really good position. But the interesting thing will be is how much it's raining harder now than it did at any point during the day today, and the rain's supposed to continue through the morning. And I guess the biggest question is going to be, I don't think it's going to be raining very much into the afternoon, but how much sun are they going to get to be able to clear drive the track out of it? If they're kind of stuck in cloud cover, I would think that there would be some moisture still in the track. And if there is still a lot of moisture in the track, I've been saying for a while now, the horse that you really need to move up is the 3-horse Mystic Dan, who was trained by Ken McPeak and ridden by Brian Hernandez Jr., who just wired the field in the Kentucky yoke. So it's certainly a strategy and a jockey that knows how to take advantage of a bias on an inside post, and that's what he did. So if it does look kind of peanut buttery-ish tomorrow, I just made that up. I would give a second look to the 3 Mystic Dan.
Okay, well, peanut butter-ish, that does make sense. All right. Well, so are there any horses that you would maybe knock down then if you're looking to move up Mystic Dan? If this is still the track status by the time we get to tomorrow, any horses you would consider knocking off, not including?
I not necessarily because of the track, but I'm still out on the 2-horse Sierra Leone just because I think he's going to have so much to do on the inside, drawing post 2. He's going to be taking back, and they're going to have to pass 19 horses. He's someone who I am out on in terms of the win. But if you're looking specifically for the track, and if it's out, I think you would have to really downgrade the 11-horse Forever Young, who is a horse coming in from Japan who a lot of people seem to like. But he has not taken well to the track in his workouts. He's not looked good at all. I know they have a tendency to train horses a little bit slower and in a little bit of a different style, but the workouts would concern me. And the biggest issue I have with him is the connections have basically come out and said he doesn't like kickback, but basically mean the dirt and mud in his face. So if it's sloppy, there's going to be even more kickback than usual. So the horses had a tendency to be wide in his trips, and if he's wide in the Derby to oppose to not get a kickback, that's a problem. So I would move Forever Young down if it does come up messy tomorrow.
Yeah, it was interesting, Bear. I was listening to Drew Dinsick when he was on with Gil earlier this morning. I know you were on with Gil as well, and he kind of said the same thing. He was down there, and he was not impressed, at least from what he had seen to this point, from Forever Young down there at Churchill Downs. Chris Felica, Fox Sports Bear Bets. Make sure you get that podcast. He did a Kentucky Derby podcast, so check that out wherever you get your podcast, joining us on our Progressive Guest Line. I don't know if you did it this year, but you've done this in the past. I remember you doing this with Stanford Steve. Are there any horses, as people are, casually walking in, looking to make that box for tomorrow, are there any horses that you should just throw out? Say, no shot, should not be in any of your boxes?
Oh, yeah. There are a bunch of them. The 1 Dornock has got no shot. The 5 Catalytic has no shot. The 9 Teal Password has no shot. The 13 West Saratoga has no shot. The 14 Endelsley has no shot. The 16 Grand Mo the First has no shot, and the 20 Society Man has no shot, and the 21 Epic Ride has no shot. So that's about half the field right there that I just threw out from hitting the board. So in that sense, it makes it a much more manageable race if you can find a couple of horses in there to key first and second in the try, maybe play the other 10 or so in a third place spot. So yeah, those horses are just super slow. Now again, I say that, and a couple of years ago, I would have said that Rich Strike was the biggest throwout in the field, and he wound up winning. So every now and then, the Derby gods have a cruel joke in store for you because the way you can't make a case for a horse on paper, and then something bizarre happens during the race, and they wind up winning. So based on the form and based on what we know, none of those horses have a chance to crack the exact.
Some of these spots like Circa and others do have matchups. Are there any matchups that you've seen that are worth circling for some bettors out there?
Yeah, there are a few that I saw that were appealing to me. One of the ones that I had looked at and played was Just Steel versus Stronghold. I got Just Steel at plus 108 at the time. I don't know if that's moved or if that's available.
Minus 115 both ways.
Okay, so yeah. I still like Just Steel. I think he's a horse that's good for Dwayne Lucas that is coming. He's been in good form. He ran second to Muth, a Bob Baffert horse who probably will be the favorite in the Preakness Stakes. So Just Steel is a horse that I like, and I like him in that matchup. And then if you're a little bit higher up the juice poll is just a touch at minus 180 over Dornock. Dornock is a horse that I also played at 13-1 in some offshore land to finish last. Like Dornock drew the rail, and Luis Saez is his jockey. He has no choice but to send from there, and I think you'll see that horse back up pretty quickly in the race. And Just a Touch is a horse that I think one of the real true contenders in this race. It's going to kind of sit just off the speed and work out a good trip. So just a touch over Dornock and Just Steel over Stronghold were the the two head-to-heads that I saw that I liked the most.
Chris Felica joining us here previewing the Kentucky Derby. Make sure to check out his podcast, Bear Bets. He did a Kentucky Derby preview there as well. You can follow him on Twitter at Chris Felica. All right, let's get to it. Who's going to win, Chris? Who do you have in that one spot on your bets come tomorrow?
I am handling this race. I am making two separate frame of mind bets because I think that's the way I have to do it. Now, maybe others don't want to do it that way because they don't want to have two different kind of thoughts in your head. But there's a school of thought that Fierceness is the best horse, and if he breaks and he gets his way on the front end, he wins. And so I'm going to bet the race that way. So I'm going to bet the 17 Fierceness on top in tries, and then I'm going to use Just Steel underneath. I'm going to use Mystic Dan underneath. I'm going to use Just a Touch underneath, and then I'm going to use Resilience underneath. Those four horses, all who are double-digit odds or longer. And then there's the school of thought that says on the first Saturday in May, 100 and something thousand people in the stands, biggest field, best field that Fierceness has ever faced. He's not going to win because if he hasn't overcome adversity already, and the times he's been faced with adversity, he hasn't overcome it in his prep career. Why should we expect him to do it now? So in that instance, then I'm going to wind up using Just a Touch as my key horse, Resilience, Just Steel, and Mystic Dan as kind of my horses first and second in the exacta. I'll put maybe Sierra Leone in there and Catching Freedom, two closers in another spot in the try and the exacta, and then fool around with the other 8 or 9 horses that I said potentially have a chance to hit the board. So maybe something like a 4x2 by 10 try, which kind of will come out to be about $80 or so for a buck. So that's how I'm attacking it. But the one thing I don't think we'll be doing tomorrow night around this time is saying Fierceness ran a really good third. I think he either wins or he's off the board.
Like him. All right, Chris, before we let you go, I don't even know where to go with this. I know that you're a fellow Clipper supporter and investment as well. How are we feeling?
I asked you the same question. I'm only if you feel good, I feel good. But it's weird. I think everybody's kind of buried them and just assumed that they're going to go back to Dallas and it's going to be the end after the way Game 5 went. I don't know. Is it still 8? Is that what it is tonight?
Still 8.
Circa went to 8.5.
That's a lot. That's a lot. I mean, I can't see them pulling a no-show tonight. Can you? I think they'll play. Oh, everyone shot so poorly in Game 5. There's no way you wouldn't think that all three of those guys can just throw up an absolute bagel again like they did in Game 5.
I would tend to agree. And also to Chris's point, closed 6.5 back in Game 4, the game that they won outright there in Dallas. So pretty interesting.
Chris, I know you're busy right now, man. We appreciate you jumping on.
Absolutely, guys. Have a great weekend.
There he is, Chris Felica, getting us ready for the Kentucky Derby. We'll recap it a little bit on the other side, plus our best bets for tonight, and maybe, just maybe, a thought on that Knicks-Pacers series. It's VSiN Primetime.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the sports betting network.
VSiN.com, folks. It is chock full of great stuff. We've got our best bets leaderboard. You can check out who's got the hot hand and who's on what. The betting splits data, of course, courtesy of DraftKings. And as I always say, great content from all of our folks up on the website. Major League Baseball, NBA, Kentucky Derby, and more. All write-ups, best bets, trends, and everything you need to attack the weekend of what will be an incredible weekend of sports. Check it out now, VSiN.com.
That's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Tim Murray. Thanks to Chris Felica for joining us, giving us his thoughts on the Kentucky Derby. The horses that he said that he will put a line through. The 1-horse, Dornoch. The 5-horse, Catalytic. The 10-horse, or I guess now the 9-horse, T.O. Password. 13, West Saratoga. 14, Endlessly. 16, Grand Mo the First. 20, Society Man. 21, Epic Ride. So he eliminated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 for us. So Hopefully they come through. So I'll just put the other 12 in exacta boxes, right? I'm guaranteed win.
That's the way it works. Math.
So thanks to Chris Felica. We got to figure out how we're going to throw some darts here. But he did seem to really like the 8, just a touch, resilience, the 19, and Mystic Dan. Those were his 3 that he seemed to like as kind of the longer shots. And then he will have, he said, in another bet, fierceness on top, and then fill in the bottom as well. So appreciate Chris Felica. Good stuff there. As JVT alluded to, we've got some really great content for the Derby, courtesy of Mike Somich up there on VSiN.com. Of course, you'll hear Somich all weekend long here on the network, leading up to the Kentucky Derby. And Drew Dinsick, his interview from Churchill Downs is on Gil's Twitter feed there. So make sure to check all of that out. Got 2 NBA games tonight. We got 2 games on the ice, a load of baseball. Let's get to it. Our best bets.
I see you using an old style.
I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom.
Putting our money where our mouth is.
I like to live dangerously.
It's time for Best Bets.
Come on, Jerry, it's a lock.
All right. Yesterday, the old, I don't know, I'm going to leave off the Bobby Portis player prop. That came home. The Bucks did not cover, so that was less than ideal evening there. So we'll try to bounce back. Do you want to take the floor as yours here to start it off?
No, man, this is your bet. Go ahead.
Nah, we work this together. Team play. But I said it earlier in the week. I think you and I agreed when we were watching the Knicks take on the Sixers in Game 5, a game they ultimately lost in wild fashion with the Tyrese Maxey couple of three-pointers there at the end of regulation, that I was waiting to bet the Knicks on the series price, or series spread, I should say, against the Indiana Pacers. I had to wait a little bit, had to be patient, but we got it last night. Unfortunately, we here in Nevada don't have access to DraftKings, so I had to wait and watch this thing get bet up. But ultimately, the series spreads did show up here in town, and that is how I'm going to attack this series. I'm going to take the Knicks minus 1.5 games. This opened, by the way, minus 205 at DraftKings. There were some varying prices across different sports books across the country there, JVT. But I'm going to take the series spread, minus 1.5 games. So for those unfamiliar with the series spread, if this were to go to 7 or the Pacers were to win this series, I would lose the bet. But we're going to take the Knicks to win in 6 or less games. So minus 1.5. It is currently minus 125 at DraftKings. We have a shop here in town, Stations, that also is offering minus 125. The depth certainly, I think, concerns me a little bit here for the New York Knicks. As we saw last night, they pretty much play 6.5 players. But I just ultimately believe that the contrast in styles, where you've got the number 2 team, right, JVT, in pace in the Indiana Pacers, who, let's be honest, don't play a ton of defense, going up against a team that wants to slow it down, wants to play a little bit better defense, and Jalen Brunson, maybe you're getting the Knicks at their peak price. I think this is more of a fade on the Indiana Pacers, but I will take the Knicks to win this in 6 or less games. Series price, minus 1.5. That is at minus 125. The New York Knickerbockers, they take down Reggie Miller's old squad. There will be no choking in this series. Get it done in 6 or less, Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this was going to be a series price that was going to open up just over $3. Remember, the Bucks opened up as $3 favorites over the Indiana Pacers before we got the clarity on Giannis' injury status and everything like that. But yeah, this was high as minus $3. You were getting plus 195 coming back the other way or higher on the Indiana Pacers. Now, I think that this series price is cheap on New York, so by extension, going to some of these series spreads, is a cheap price. So yeah, let's do it. Minus 1.5 and minus 125. I think it's more than a fair price to ask a Knicks team to, as I think you put it pretty well, right? Just win this series in fewer than 7 games, or just don't lose it. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think this Knicks team being a little underpriced, or maybe I think Indiana maybe being a little overvalued. It was a good matchup for the Pacers against Milwaukee. Don't think that's the case here against New York, and wildly impressive too, man, the way they won that series. That was awesome. Yesterday, Joel Embiid played great. It was a very, very good game for Joel Embiid, but the Knicks just went out there and they took it. And this is a team that I think can punish this really poor perimeter defense for the Indiana Pacers. Give me the Knicks minus 1.5 games in this series.
So let me ask you this about the Knicks. And obviously you and I have gone to the window. We have placed the same bet. We expect them to win this series. But when you look at the New York Knicks, does the lack of depth worry you as they continue to make this run, and more than likely, assuming they take care of business and cash our ticket, face the Boston Celtics? You're looking at a box score in Game 6. Dante DiVincenzo did not come out, played 48 minutes. Josh Hart played 46. Jalen Brunson played 44. And I want to say when he was off the court, because he was a +7, so in the 4 minutes he was off the court, no, he was a +9. The 4 minutes he was off the court, they were -6. So they can really ill afford to have anybody else on the floor. Miles McBride has had some moments. He only played 9 minutes last night, and then you're kind of getting
three.
And then you're kind of getting the Hartenstein, Mitchell Robinson tandem, so to speak. Hartenstein ultimately played 30 minutes. But big picture for the Knicks, how worried would you be about depth? And if you're Rick Carlisle, what is the game plan to maybe try to gas this Knicks team?
Yeah, well, I don't know if you're obviously maybe somewhat worried, but Miles McBride, I think, is a little bit more serviceable than what he showed, right? The Game 6 was a little bit of an extreme, but averaged over 20 minutes per game in the time prior and was a serviceable player for them.
33 minutes against Phil in Game 5.
Yeah, he averaged over 20 in the 5 games prior to the series, so I think he's going to have a little bit of a bigger role. It's just, hey, it's an elimination game. You need to be a little bit better, and by the way, in the postseason, in that series with Miles McBride on the floor, they outscored Philly by 4.6 points per 100 possessions. So I think he's still positive, and I think that you have a little bit more depth there. I think the real question is just, where are you going to get the rest of the offensive creation from? But I think that's more worrisome when you get to a stout defensive opponent. I think we've seen from Indiana here that this is not a team that is going to go out there, play overtly physical defense and shut you down. And I think you're still going to be able to get at this team with the way you can rebound, the way you can attack some of these weak perimeter defenders. So I think it's a small issue too, but I think it's more of an issue that pops up once and if you get to the Eastern Conference Finals against a team like Boston that's really going to, of course, clamp down on you and make you really work every single possession. That's going to be wild, having to play 46-ish minutes a game against a team like that.
Game 1 of the Pacers-Knicks series will be on Monday night, 7:30 Eastern at Madison Square Garden. So it'll be a Monday, Wednesday, Friday series. So no extra days off until they were to get to a potential Game 7. That's where you would see multiple days off in a row. So it's going to be 1 day off, no travel days until a potential Game 6 if we were to get there. The Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets, that series gets going on Saturday night, a primetime game on TNT, 7 o'clock Eastern. JVT and I, simpatico there as well. We took a little shot on the T-Wolves. Now you've got a bigger shot on them to win the Western Conference at a really good price at 30-1. But that is a series that will get underway on Saturday night. We will break down the two games tonight coming up momentarily with Doug Kazarian, our good friend from OnlyPlayers.com. But real quickly, as we look at the board for tonight from the NBA standpoint, Orlando -4, some 4.5 starting to show, including at DraftKings, 4 -15 here at Circa in favor of the Orlando Magic. So some late Orlando money coming in. And Dallas, as we talked to Chris Felica about it, is now out to, at some spots, including Circa, an 8.5-point favorite against the Clippers.
8.5, man, 8.5's too much, man. It just seemed like we talked about. So the change in the last game that they were in Dallas to this game, Tim, the last game closing at, 6.5, if I remember correctly, was the fact that they went to LA and lost the game. Right? And yeah, sure, the deficit was large, but yeah, they lost the game. I don't know if that warrants an adjustment, but as we kind of talked about, the market's been waiting for every opportunity to bet on this team.
6.5, 7 is where they closed. Clippers won that game. And
so it's probably about a point and a half adjustment off of one result.
8.5 point. Interesting to know. What does Doug Kazarian think of tonight's NBA games, as well as the two series that we know are already going to take place? We'll get Doug Kazarian's thoughts on the other side. It is VSiN PrimeTime.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
It's Kentucky Derby time. Are you ready for the greatest 2 minutes in sports? Saddle up with DK Horse, an official DraftKings affiliate. Right now, new customers who download the DK Horse app get a 100% deposit bonus up to $250 when they opt in with the code VSiN Horse, all one word. Just deposit $25 or more and complete the playthrough requirement. Download DK Horse now to join the Run for the Roses action only on the DK Horse app.
That's Jonathan Von Tobel. I am Tim Murray. News to pass across regarding the Orlando Magic Cleveland Cavaliers game, maybe why we saw those hooks start to arrive. The officialness, JVT, that Jarrett Allen is out tonight. So no Jarrett Allen once again for the Cleveland Cavaliers, which could lead to some prop angles by our next guest who joins us on a progressive guest line. Onlyplayers.com is his website. Of course, you know him. It is Doug Kazarian, who may or may not have his beloved dog Arthur make an appearance here in just a moment or two. So let's look at it this way, Doug. We know that Jarrett Allen is out. So what does that lead to you to play from a prop standpoint tonight?
Yeah, I feel like this is a banger. The sports books understandably took down all the props and then just reposted them. So a guy like Evan Mobley, who's going to be the only real big for Cleveland with Jarrett Allen out, went from 9.5 to 11.5 rebounds, and the rest, kind of moved as well. But the 3-pointers is the key. Under is still only minus 145, minus 150 range, and it's a half. But he didn't attempt one in the last game. It's very conventional logic. No Jarrett Allen, so Mobley's the guy in the paint on offense. He's not hanging around the 3-point line as a stretch 4. He plays the 5. And so he moves over the 5 spot. So under a half a made 3 is the way to go with Jarrett Allen news being out.
No, it makes a lot of sense, especially with a guy who doesn't even shoot them particularly well anyway, right? So the volume's going to go down, and he's not even a particularly good shooter. What have you made of this series in general, Doug, with the way that the Cavaliers have played offensively, how poor it's been, and the home court has been strong for both teams in terms of straight-up results? Do you expect that we're going to get a Game 7 here?
Yeah, definitely. I've been on Orlando 3 straight games. I did not want to overreact to the first 2 games. I felt it was just a team that wasn't ready for the playoff intensity. Heck, we saw it with Indiana in Game 1, and then they responded in Game 2. Magic righted the ship, and I actually thought after 4 games they would win the next 2. This Cleveland team is something off. I don't think they're that great coached. I think the Donovan Mitchell bailout offense is their best sort of thing in the playoffs. I like some of their bench guys. Mobley's not there yet. He's certainly trending towards a really good player. But I thought the Magic would win the last game, and they were obviously right there in the mid-third, fourth quarter. They had the lead. But I really like them tonight. I didn't lay the points, though, just because they're the Magic and have issues with the 3 and all that stuff. But I don't think this Cleveland team's very good. So I think the Magic are certainly live on the series price. I like them tonight to at least force a Game 7.
All right, so Matt Humans lovingly refers to you as the betting bully, right? You like to ask these good things, teams to do good things for you. Is the betting bully coming out to play with the Mavericks up in some spots as an 8.5-point favorite tonight against my Clippers? The answer: be careful. It might decide how much longer you're on with us.
No, I am not. I've been wrong basically on this entire series. Like I bet the Mavs in Game 1. Not Game 2. It was a mess. So typically the betting bully affectionate nickname is really about like the outlier teams, like the really, really impressively off, like DePaul this past college basketball season. Some would say the White Sox this year, although they did sweep the Rays last weekend. I only lost the Game 1 of that series. But this is not, there are teams that are bad and like smart money or sharp money and sort of the market doesn't allow them to be priced so badly. I don't think that's the Clippers here. I do think there's a chance the Clippers get rolled. With Paul George's comments that Barkley criticized and Harden, I just don't think they have the ability to push themselves when they like kind of maximize their output, if you will. So I think they're good for like one-off good games. So I wouldn't be shocked if they played well or they rode the pine and Ty Lue went with the guys you can rely on, like Powell, even Westbrook a little bit attacking the rim, and he just went in the foxhole with those guys.
We should note, too, and I wanted to update this for our audience, too, Tim. Terrence Mann is questionable to play, but did just go out on the court. He is, it was at shoot-around this morning. He's warming up, and from Law Murray, who was with us earlier this week, said that Mann is questionable, but talked to him this morning. Doesn't sound like somebody who's not running tonight. So maybe that's why you get this line adjustment, but Terrence Mann, at least in question, maybe that explains why we're up to 8.
Doug Kazarian joining us here on a Progressive guest line. Onlyplayers.com. Also, make sure you get the app as well. Evan Mobley under a half a three tonight at DraftKings is minus 142. So that is playable there at DraftKings. You mentioned the series price where it's at right now. Magic at plus 310 at DraftKings. As always, look around. I'm curious, as we saw last night, an instant classic of a series, Doug, wrap up. Knicks get the win, and they move on to take the Indiana Pacers. We just did our best bets, and both JVT and I are on the series spread, taking the Knicks minus 1.5 games. We've seen that move up. Last night it opened even money at DraftKings. It is now out to minus 125. How are you looking to attack, if at all, this Knicks-Pacers series?
I could not be more impressed with what the Knicks have done the last couple games. I mean, just the supporting cast hitting big shots like Hart and DiVincenzo, and then Brunson's been fantastic. Really, really impressive performance by New York, and then OG doing what he's doing. I've just been so overwhelmed, like, with the respect. Now, I'm on the Pacers to win the East at 40-1. But yeah, they're downright disrespectful to the concept of defense. Like, the fact that they just allow a points that easily, and if they're going to hit the shots like they did against the Bucks, fine. But I can see the Knicks really hitting them in the mouth. But is there a little bit of a flat spot in game one? I don't know. These Knicks have been really, really impressive.
Yeah, resilient and relentless, I think, is a really good term for him, too. Downright stole that game the other day. I mean, they took it from him, not even stole. It was absolutely incredible what they did against Philly. All right, let's go to the big one on Saturday. Everybody's been excited for a while, rightfully so. Seems like it's going to be a high-level series. Some would argue maybe the Western Conference Finals, but in the second round, Minnesota and Denver, Doug. It's a rematch from last year. Some key differences, though, right? Naz Reid's available. Jaden McDaniels is available. This bench is a little bit better. What do you make of Minnesota and the upstart Timberwolves with Anthony Edwards taking on the defending champs?
You know, I know it's a little trendy, and I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, but I like Minnesota a lot. I just think, like you said, at full strength, they have the length, the defensive aptitude, and commitment to defense that you need to stop Denver. And maybe we're dismissing the Lakers a little bit, but the fact that the Lakers looked so good or Denver didn't look that dominant until the final few minutes of the few games, we know they're beatable. I mean, look, they blew a 23-point lead the final weekend of the regular season, but they are not like an overwhelming juggernaut like the peak Warriors with Durant were, right? This is a team that we all agree is probably the best team in the league. Jokic makes them very difficult because they don't have any scoring droughts when they run the offense through him. But defensively, the T-Wolves have the chops. And if Anthony Edwards is sort of in this Jordan progression where he's trying to get over past the Celtics and the Pistons, I'm all in because I love watching this team. And Conley was huge last series. And if he can hit some shots, provide the offense, I like the T-Wolves in 6 a lot.
Yeah.
Plus 500 is such a smarter bet than just T-Wolves plus 170 because they're not going to sweep. To win in 5, that means you're going to have to win, 2 games of the first 3 in Denver. So I just think plus 500 in terms of the trade-off, and I'll worry about game 7 if they're up 3-2 going into game 6, right? So you can play out of that. So I just think plus 500 is the right way to play this game in 6 games exactly.
So you'd rather go the exact route instead of Minnesota series price minus 1.5?
Yeah, if you look at the money lines, look, they opened 4.5, 5, and now it's a 4-point spread. So just the sequencing, they're going to be about 3 or 2 at home. I just think if Minnesota's going to win the series, it's going to happen in 6 or 7. We've seen the road team do better in Game 7 the last few years, the NBA playoffs. It's a more level playing field. But I like it at plus 500 in 6 as opposed to plus 170 just overall to win the series.
Yeah, and you mentioned the word that's not bothered me a little bit. And by the way, I have a good futures ticket on Minnesota too, and it's kind of maybe rubbed me the wrong way that they're trendy, Doug. But you know who else was trendy? The New York Knicks against Philadelphia 76ers. Everybody moved it in that direction. The Mavericks were trendy. They were up 3-2 and a massive favorite here tonight in Game 6 as well.
Pacers were trendy.
Yeah, so it's not like the worst thing in the world.
I jumped in front of a train when I was at ESPN. I literally burned bridges with my producer. I refused to be a part of the segment called Fade the Public. I was like, that's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It's not accurate. You guys can all think that and say it, and it's fun, but I do not want to do an actual segment called fade the public because it doesn't like really the dots aren't connected. Like it's not like a logical flow. So I'm with you. Like I just think like you got to be careful sometimes. The market's usually more right than the trends, I guess is the way to.
I just like the thought of the public fading the public. Like we're the public. Like relax.
Doug, always appreciate it. Enjoy the weekend with Arthur there.
Yeah, sorry you got the backside shot the entire time. You know, he runs the house. He sleeps when he wants to sleep. He lays down when he wants to lay down.
I went to that dog's birthday. I bought him treats. He owes me more than this. He better show up next time.
Onlyplayers.com. Make sure you check it out. Evan Mobley under 0.5 VSiN Primetime.